Hey everybody, welcome back to Unedited. We are here with episode 9. We're almost at double digits. It's exciting. I'm Ethan, and I'm joined by somebody new, somebody special today, Charis Israelson.
Yep.
Who are you?
I am one of the interns. I am the Worship and Tech Ministries intern for July and August.
Nice. Working at the Neighbourhood Church.
Yes, sir.
What's it like being in the hood?
I mean, I've been here for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Just attending the church. So
now
it's kind of like just being home.
You're in it, though.
Yeah.
Irrevocably.
Forever.
No going back.
I am permanently on staff. It turns out you should tell Louis that and see what he says.
So can I ask you a couple questions about yourself?
Yes, of course.
So who is Charis Israelson?
Charis Israelson is a daughter of the Lord. But
Wow.
I'm also a pastor's kid, PAOC, born and raised.
Okay.
I am in school at Horizon Bible College, and I'm taking a Bachelor of Theology in Ministry Leadership.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Better degree than I took, so that's
What
awesome.
did you take?
It's like a BA in something.
Okay, fair enough.
It was Bachelor of Arts in, I think it might have been like pastoral ministry. I don't know.
Okay.
The titles have changed.
They have changed, for sure.
Yeah. Basically, my degree is like dirt now. Nobody cares about it.
The only difference in our degrees is I'm taking Greek.
Oh, fancy. That's what my wife did, and she got a Bachelor of Theology.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Full circle. So who is Charis Israelson? Where is Charis Israelson?
Well, I grew up mainly in Swift Current.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in Regina till I was 8, and then Swift Current until I was 16, and I'm now 21, and we've been living in Saskatoon for the last 5 years.
Nice. I remember when you moved here. Okay, so next question. Maybe last, but we'll see if I surprise you with another one.
Okay.
Why is Charis Israelson?
Well, my parents loved each other a lot.
Okay, all right. I don't want to ask you any more questions. I'm good. Let's leave it there. So Charis is an intern at the Neighbourhood Church this summer. She's doing awesome, and we're privileged to have her as a guest here for this episode. Jordan's away this week, but while the cat's away, the mice will play.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's exciting. Thank you for doing this, Charis, and joining us for this episode. I'm sure that everybody else is excited for a little refresh in the personalities here at the table as well. So now everybody's just hoping that I disappear soon. And then they'll be extra excited. Okay. Next week's just going to be Charis and somebody else.
just somebody off the street. I'll just pick one.
That's right. Complete refresh. Okay, so we have a few segments for you today. We're going to do In My Feed. We're going to go into In the Neighborhood and close off with How About You? So it's an exciting episode for this week. The first thing we're going to do is In My Feed.
In My Feed.
So this week, Charis, I'm going to tell you about a crazy story that I heard about, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
It's, I literally, this week, I didn't organically come across anything. Usually for In My Feed, I've seen something throughout the week, and I've bookmarked it, screenshot it, and I keep it. This week, I literally just Googled weird news because I wanted something funky. I wanted something off the wall. I didn't want politics. I didn't want tech news. I didn't want space news. People listening to the podcast know I always have something to say about space. But this week is an article from AP, and it says, this is the title, "No kidding!" exclamation point. King Charles III bestows royal title on rare golden goat breed.
Wait, I saw that when I was looking for
Did
weird
you really?
news today. I didn't read the article, though, so this is all new for me.
Okay.
I'm so ready.
I like that you did the same thing as me. You're just like, weird news. Let's just see what's out there. Yeah, this struck me because there's even a picture here. If you were to, listener or viewer, if you were to Google King Charles III royal goat or something, you'll see a picture. There's just this goat that looks like it's got like a golden retriever mane. It's like, or not mane, coat, I should say. And it's just like chilling in front of him, and the King of England is just pointing at a goat. That's the picture. He's just pointing at this goat.
Perfect thumbnail.
Yeah, it really is. So this is what the article states. It says that King Charles has bestowed a royal title on a rare golden goat breed. So it's like the whole breed. Imagine you're a goat breed and you're just slugging through life. You're just making it one day at a time. And then all of a sudden the King of England comes and he's like, you know what? Your whole breed is getting a title. I didn't even know people could do that.
But like, imagine you're the King of England and you're like, you know what needs to get done today?
Yeah. They're running out of things to do. I think the monarchy is kind of like, well, we own everything. We're crazy rich. What else are we supposed to do right now?
Yeah, all of the politics are covered by the prime minister.
That's exactly
so we're
right.
just
Yeah, as a figurehead with lots of money, you're just like, I'll just give goats titles. You know,
perfect.
it's pretty funny. I like to imagine that this was just like a very honoring situation for the goat, and the goat that was chosen to represent, because there was one goat that was chosen to represent this entire breed. I imagine they're just like in tears, and they're just like, this is the craziest honor of my life, you know. And they're going up, and there's like a whole coronary, you know. Wait, coronary? What's the word I'm looking for? It's not coronary.
No, it's not coronary. Like a coronation?
Yes. Wrong word. Okay. There's a whole coronation ceremony, you know, and like it's all honoring. But this is, I'm going to read a couple more excerpts from this article.
Please do.
From now on, the breed, known for its connection to the island of Guernsey, I think that's how you say it, will have the special title of Royal Golden Guernsey Goat. That's also just like way too many G's in one title. Royal Golden Guernsey Goat.
Did they just add royal onto the original name?
Pretty sure they did. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the title bestowed Tuesday during the king's visit to the island will apply to the livestock breed anywhere in the world. So if you have some of these goats, they're royal now. Like, it's just, it automatically happens. It applies.
Are they like protected now, or they just have a new name?
I have no idea, because this one person, Rebecca Martin, who's the owner of this one goat that like stood in for the whole breed, says hopefully this will raise awareness for the breed. I'm like, why? I don't really get it. It says in the article that they're rare. Oh yeah, and it says at risk. So maybe there is like a reason for this. That's but they're considered to be docile and friendly and produce good milk, which I'm like, I don't know. Let's leave the milk to almonds and cows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are the two that you're going with.
I'm good with almonds and cows giving us milk. What about you? What's your preferred delivery of milk?
I mean, I like cow's milk, but cow's milk doesn't always like me. So if I have to have a replacement, I go with oat milk, because almond milk has too much of an almondy flavor. You know, like if you got a latte with almond milk, it's an almond latte now.
That's true, actually. That's very true. It's sort of like hazelnut takes over everything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good, but it's just not always what you want.
What about cashew? Have you tried cashew before?
I have not tried cashew milk.
Oh, it's very creamy. So oat milk, I think, is great for like creamers, like you're saying, because it like leaves a less of a profound signature behind.
Yeah.
But I like almond milk just for milk. Like, we don't drink cow's milk at our house.
Okay.
Because my wife's stomach is sensitive to lactose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that we could be talking about for a while. I'm going to let you do your feed item in a second, but one more thing.
By all means.
Is there's a recall on almond milk.
Is there really?
Yeah, like the Silk products completely off the shelves, and that's all we use. So now we're like, I guess we just don't have milk until they figure this out.
Okay.
So
I should tell my sister. My sister drinks almond milk.
Oh no, is she drinking it right now?
Yeah, in this
Call
moment.
her. Put down the milk. Don't drink that. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my feed article. I just thought it was pretty awesome that the King of England has nothing better to do than to bestow a royal title to a goat. So pretty cool. I feel like we're living in a sci-fi series here. So that's good. What about you? What was in your feed this week?
Nothing was like in my feed this morning. I was looking up funny or interesting articles. Was exactly what I actually typed in.
Nice.
And after going through so many articles, I decided on Arizona park rangers use extreme heat to bake up some banana bread. So basically,
all right,
these park rangers in Arizona have been baking different things in their cars because it's so hot. It's like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like 37-ish Celsius. And so the cars get up to just over 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
And they have successfully made cookies. They baked bell peppers, and then they attempted banana bread.
Wow.
And I saw banana bread, and I was like, I know how to bake. And banana bread is like an hour long, 350 degree oven
dense.
kind of.
Yeah, it's dense stuff. Yeah.
They did admit that it wasn't fully baked through.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would not have eaten that. That's salmonella in
Yeah.
a pan. But
Did they do egg free or something? Do you know? Because that would have been the play. If they could have done
Oh.
egg free, unless they put almond milk in, it's recalled.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think they have the recipe attached. Like one of those recipe bloggers where it's like, here's this,
This is
really
how we
long
made-
story.
I hate that. You look up like, how do I make just like an interesting stir fry? And they're like, let me tell you about my family. It's like, how about you tell me what goes in the stir fry?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
100%. I love the skip to recipe button
Yeah.
is my favorite
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
If a place has that, I'm using it all day for sure.
yeah. But it's not quite 37 degrees Celsius here. I think
Mm-hmm.
it gets up to 34 this week. So,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
I looked it up because I was like, can we bake cookies in the church parking lot?
Wow. Yep.
But it needs to be in direct sunlight. So maybe,
Maybe in the window of your car.
yeah, under the dashboard.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It gets hot up there.
It does.
Do you ever have you got a black interior in your car?
Yeah, I have black leather seats.
Oh yeah, black leather. You scorching your skin every time you sit down.
Every time. I have a blanket in my car all year long because in the winter it's too cold and in the summer it's too hot. So it's just.
That's classic. I used to have leather seats in my old car too, and it was always the same. It's like you start to realize that it looks like you were eating potato chips, all these like crusts on it, and you're like, no, that's just my leg skin that's been burnt off and stuck inside the car. It
That's
happens.
terrible.
It happens, you know? It's like potato skins in there. So
Yeah.
Ashley likes that one, by the way. Listeners and viewers, she's laughing her head off right now. Not actually. Well, that's a great feed item. I appreciate that. I think that if we're able to try to do some baking in the church parking lot, I'm down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get the other interns involved.
Okay.
It'll be an intern project.
That sounds like a great use of your guys' time. I think we should do it. You guys can present it to the rest of the staff as like a project for the summer. You know?
Yeah. I like it.
Cool. Well, that was good. That's in my feed. And with that all in, we got our ridiculousness out a little bit, you know, a little bit of silliness here and there, but we are ready to get serious now. Okay? You ready to lock in?
I'm so locked in.
Okay.
Are you locked in?
Nope, not at all. I'm still thinking about that goat, man. That goat had the best day of his life. Like, who told the goat that it's downhill from here? You know what I mean? Who told the goat, like, enjoy this now because this is as good as it gets for a goat? Anyway, it's time for In the Neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
So this past weekend, we had Roger, who is a pastor at our Warman location at the Neighbourhood Church. He came and he spoke for us out of 1 Peter chapter 5, and a little bit from everywhere else, right? He
Yeah.
kind of dabbled a bit. But Pastor Roger's a great guy, and he's got a big heart for the church and understanding what the church should be doing, how the church should be living and acting, like what the Bible says about who the church is supposed to be. And he gave us some really good points. And I'm just going to we'll talk about his 3 main points. And at any point, you just hop in, share your thoughts. I'm sure you've got some. And we'll, after this, wrap up with how about you?
Sounds perfect.
So the first thing that he talked about is the fact that as Christians, we're actually called to service. We're called to be loving God and serving people. So he shared like a little anecdote about how when he was living in, it wasn't Argentina. It was the place he moved to after Argentina, but I'm forgetting the location. So it's a mystery. But
It's not a mystery. You can actually watch the sermon online.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Not much of a mystery. You could go find it on YouTube, look up the Neighbourhood Church. But he was talking about how he talked to this minister when he was younger or some time ago. And he was saying that he asked the minister, like, how do you have a successful ministry? And the minister said, well, it's simple. You love God and serve people. And he kind of used that as like a crux to like present the arguments of 1 Peter chapter 5 to us and give us some structure on like how we're actually supposed to serve people, what that looks like. And I definitely found it to be very interesting and challenging. I think that a lot of people come into church and have different expectations of what is supposed to be happening. Like, why do we do church?
100%.
And you've come from a church background. Like, what do you think are some of the expectations people have when they go to church? What do they think it's supposed to be doing?
I think that really depends on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Swift Current, we had a very small town church kind of vibe. And that's completely different from being in a bigger space like here in Saskatoon. And I think it's something that I've observed as I've gotten older. I think some people come to church and they just want to be filled, right? And they come to be served, right?
Yeah.
That's never made sense to me, but I also have always been a pastor's kid. And so in a small town church, as a pastor's kid, I loved to serve. And it was also kind of expected. And it wasn't something like put on me by my parents. Like I didn't feel pressured by them.
Okay.
But it was just kind of like, well, you're here. So here's a job to keep you busy, you know?
Yeah.
And so.
Like if you're going to be here, you're going to participate.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a poor understanding a lot of the time of what it means to serve one another well and to actually care about one another and get to know each other. And I love that Pastor Louis has been trying to get people to be part of barbecues and actually investing in one another and getting to know each other as part of the church family. Because I think when we are a church family and we do love each other and spend time with one another, then serving each other comes as second nature.
It's like just a normal response to existence.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think like you're really pointing out something good there, which is that we kind of have a consumer mentality in North American church. I say kind of, I mean, we do.
Yeah.
So not everybody necessarily falls into that category. There's lots of people that are serving their churches and their communities and their neighbors and their cities and whatever. Like there's lots of people that are really viewing their call as a Christian to be something more than just attendance and consumption. But on the general population, I would probably say Roger really kind of got us where he was saying like you didn't get saved just to be here. Like you've been called to Christ so that he could call you to care for people. And that was his first point actually, was to care for people. So he said like, how are we doing this? Is like we care for each other, and we're actually supposed to, it's not just inside church buildings.
No.
Like it's not just supposed to be something where we come to church and, you know, I show up on a Sunday and I'm acting like my life is perfect and stuff, and I take care of you because I know you and you're my friend. It's like we're supposed to care for people out around us everywhere we go. I think that that's kind of one of the big things that, again, like Louis been emphasizing at our church lately and putting a lot of extra attention into. But did anything stand out to you when he was talking about that, like the care aspect? Anything jump out at you?
He talked a lot about being aware of people's needs and he talked about Jesus as the good shepherd and us as shepherds. And I think it's just really beautiful the way that he talks about caring for people and caring for one another and the importance of caring for people who aren't just part of the church, right? But who are just people, right? And I think that when you do love God and you serve people, right? But when you love God, you start to love people because you just see the image of God that is in them, right? And it can't be helped, I think, when you know Christ. And that's something maybe that comes easier to some people than other people, and I have to recognize that. But to love God is to love the people that he created in a lot of ways. Yeah,
absolutely. I was actually listening to a podcast about the Puritans recently, you know, like the people that came over on like the Mayflower and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like the Pilgrims, which is a different group of people. And then there's like the Quakers even. And there's these interesting groups of people coming over to like America, North America, and coming from England for all variety of different reasons, lots of them being like religious and political. And this group of people had lots of different beliefs about like what it meant to be a Christian and to follow God. And, you know, on this side of history, we can look back and be like, they kind of messed up a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? We can say that.
Hey, I'm sure we're messing up things.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, hopefully we're not like committing genocide or anything like that. But, you know, they had their black eyes, and I'm not trying to underplay that. But it is interesting to see like some of them, like I believe it's the Quakers, were like very interested in the idea that every human has a divine spark. And that was really the only reason I brought up me listening to that podcast, is to just segue to that. But it's like an old idea that Christians have held to and continued or dropped, or what, like it's evolved and moved through different like generations of Christian belief. But the idea that there is an image of God in humanity. And some people think that like we live in absolute depravity before we meet Christ and stuff. There's like all sorts of different theological terms you can use.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the gospel really tells us that God has made us in his image divinely, and that there is good to be brought out, that there's bad to be rid of, so that the good who we were meant to be can shine, right? And when we don't care for people, we really just disregard that. Like regardless of their situation and where they are and what they're doing. Like think about somebody who would, you know, not traditionally be like a standout of a glowing example of a citizen or something, like somebody who maybe is struggling with issues that present more outwardly than some people who have issues presenting inwardly. You can hide it, you know, like if you're dealing with addiction or something, it's kind of hard to keep inside and not let people see. But we treat them differently, even though they are still the people that God is calling us to care for, to love, and to call out that divine spark, you know, or to call out that nature that God has given them that is divine, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't get, like, I get how we get there, but I don't get how the church stays there when we discriminate against that. Like when we think, well, we care for just us, not these people around us. Like they are us, you know?
Exactly. How can we not love them when we have been so loved?
Exactly.
Right? And I think it's a poor understanding of our own salvation and our own need for salvation, right? When we forget how desperately we needed saving is when we can disregard those who still need to experience the joy that it is to be indwelt by the Spirit and to be in relationship with God.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we lose sight of that if we're not really living that way. So Roger challenged us. He
100%.
brought it. Yeah. And he definitely was saying like, hey, if you're a Christian, you care for people. There's no argument to be had. You don't get to choose whether that's something you do. That's a Christian thing to do, is you care for people. And along with that, he said, like, we serve people, which I'm realizing I might have written down his points like out of order or something. So if you're fact checking me through the video, listeners and watchers, you can comment how wrong I am if I've mislabeled these or something.
I think you're doing the right order.
Okay, good.
I'm pretty sure. Because that's the order I have.
You guys can call out Charis then, because she's confirming what I'm saying. So
talk to me at church.
Yeah. Just call her down. So serving people, you know, if we care for people, if we love people, then we're going to actually do something about it. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking at the church actually, and I was saying, like, from 1 Peter chapter 4, I was saying that Peter challenges us to use the gift that God has given us to the best of our ability. And the way I phrased it is put in work, like actually do something about it. Like nobody goes, okay, I need to care for my body, so I'll just sit around. Like you put in work and you exercise or something, you know, like there has to be an actual practical outflowing of if you care for people, you're going to do something. So what did you think when he started talking about that? What were your thoughts?
I think serving is something that is always something that I've been around, but the part that got me was serving eagerly and with gladness.
Okay.
And I've been thinking a lot about this actually over the last couple of weeks, and just thinking about, do I do everything for other people as if I was actually doing it for Christ? You know, like if you asked me to go stack chairs and I was serving in that capacity, would I serve with the same attitude as I would if Jesus himself was standing there and said, hey, can you go stack those chairs, right? Or am I going to be tired or grumpy or just not do 100% the best that I possibly could do, right? And I was watching a video a few days ago, a week ago, I don't know, doesn't matter. And he said, like, what if we actually did that all the time at our regular jobs outside of Christian circles, but we actually gave 110% as if we were serving Christ and not our like earthly bosses, right? And like, would people see a difference in what it means to be a Christian if we actually worked that way and with that joy and gladness? So I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's super challenging.
It's a huge attitude shift, hey? That's the thing about what Jesus taught, is he might have actually reiterated a lot of popular teachings from like Hebrew belief or Judaic belief, but he always turned them inside, hey? He was always like, but what's happening inside before you even do these things?
Yeah.
So he would be like, you've been told not to murder, but he says, don't hate. Like, so not just don't kill people, but don't actually hate people. And like, so it starts inside before it even gets out. So it's really interesting to think of service that way, because I think we do think of service as an external thing.
Yeah.
But where does it start with us? Like, do we have a spirit of, or a heart or an ambition of service before we actually put our hands to the work, right? It makes me think about how, like, when I'm at work, I work at a church, so there's always opportunities for me to brush shoulders with people, and there's opportunities for me to serve people. And I think generally it's pretty easy for me to understand that I'm in that mode at work, or when I go to church on the weekend, or say I go to like some community event and they need help or whatever. Like, if I'm there to do that, I'm like, cool, that's good. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
But I think the place that challenges us a lot is in the places that we don't typically view ourselves as serving. Like, if I volunteer for something, I'm probably just going to be a volunteer. Unless, I mean, maybe there's people out there who are going to struggle with that too, which is fair. But for me, that's not the hard part. The hard part is probably more like when I get home and I'm wiped out and I've used all my energy and I've been focused on a million things or whatever. Let's say I had a bad day. I got cut off in traffic even, whatever ticks you off. That doesn't really tick me off, but pretend it does. And I get home and then my dear wife says, hey, I really need you to take care of a few things for me. Does that spirit of service leave me at that moment?
Yeah.
Or like, what about when a sibling is like, I need your help with something? Does that spirit of serving leave us? Like, I just think we need to check the places that we don't view ourselves as serving to really see if we're hitting that mark, because it's on us to recognize that maybe you're good at volunteering. Maybe you're good at showing up when somebody outside of your family is expecting something from you or whatever. But what about like in those intimate places where it's like your family? Yeah.
And the people that are closest to you, right? Because they're also the people that we're most comfortable being our worst selves around. Yeah. And there's something to be said for like, I hope that I can be my worst self around my parents and still be loved and cared for, right? But they always deserve the best version of me. Yeah. Right. And am I showing up with that?
That's a great way to put it. I really appreciate that, actually. So that's a perfect place to leave that, actually, and to talk about his last point, which was, to care for people, serve people, and then influence people. Is that what you had for his last point as well?
I did, yes.
Nice. Good. Batting 100 here. That's awesome. So he challenged us that not only should we care for people and then out of that care serve them, but he also said that like we each have our different sphere of influence, a different ability to use our social connectivity and opportunities to leave something good with people. So I think influence can be a tricky word because sometimes we think about different things like peer pressure or like assimilation or like sort of generally stigmatized language around like how you force your imprint on people. But I think influence is really, and the way that Roger was talking about it, is really about like leaving somebody with something better, like imparting something positive to somebody. So like using whatever relational connection you have to leave them better than you found them. And then we count on other people to do the same for us, right? Did you have anything on influence? Anything that stood out?
I think just saying that it's so important to recognize who we are surrounded by, right? Both like, yes, we should be going out to people who we can influence for the better and who we can impart with a better understanding of who God is and who God's people are and even just how to be a better human being, right? But also to recognize that when we are surrounded by people who don't do that, do we have a support system that can be influencing us to be the best version of ourselves? Or are we surrounded by people who are going to drag us back into bad habits and bad attitudes and even little things that you just pick up because you're surrounded by it, right? And
yeah. There's actually there's a proverb I was just looking up. Is it Proverb 13:12? I was just looking at it the other day. But you know what? I want to find it because I want to actually read it properly. But it's an old proverb. So the book of Proverbs is like an interesting, if not eclectic, collection of, Proverbs. Spoiler.
Yeah. Wise sayings.
Wise sayings. It is wisdom literature, which means it imparts like wisdom, and there's a few like kind of more poetic pieces to it. But here I am, 13. I said, I think. Did I say 13 earlier?
You said 13. But yeah, Proverbs is a collection of lots of little sayings, but also longer poetry type parts. And poetry and little sayings are easier to remember, which is part of why it's written in that format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was you filled time great by saying that. And I know you weren't just saying it as filler, but I still can't find the verse. But Proverbs 13 is all about wisdom, you know? And just like Charis said, it's about imparting, wisdom and like life stuff. But it's basically I'm going to paraphrase it really bad. So just pretend that I'm using like some obscure translation that nobody's ever heard of or something. So it says like, the wise people keep godly people around them, and the foolish people let them influence them. Just very poorly paraphrased, but the idea that like the company you keep makes you who you are. Like, and a wise person will keep good company. And this is not to say that you're not going to be around people who aren't perfect. Like we've already covered the whole idea of not making others out of people who are in different circumstances than us or struggling with things outwardly more. It's not about that. It's about like, what is your influence? So just because you're with somebody doesn't mean you let them influence you, Yeah. And so the company you keep to influence you, and likewise, the company we keep to give influence is very important, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of Christians are just like polished stone, polishing stone. Like, do you kind of get what I mean by that? It's like, let's keep refining and refining and refining. It's like, we're too smooth, guys. Like, let's go be around some other people here. Let's give our influence. Let's polish some other stuff. Let's get polished by some other resources, because like, we're just going to be a bunch of marbles in a bowl,
Exactly. And I realized when I was waitressing, I didn't know how to talk to non-Christian people.
Oh, really?
Because other than small talk, because I have been like raised in the church, and I've spent the last 3 years of my life at Bible college.
Right.
And so my life was mainly like my Christian friends and my school and my church. And then I would go to work, but it's work, and you make small talk, and you're serving people, and that's great. But then when people were like, hey, we should hang out outside of work, I was like, I don't know what we're even going to talk about. And that was a wake-up call for me, right? And so of course, I'm so grateful for my school and for my church and for the people who have influenced me. So beyond grateful for the people who have influenced me. But when I am no longer allowing myself to be an influence to the people who need me or who need the Lord, and the Lord is going to use me in that way, like that's rough. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah. That actually fits perfectly with what we're talking about in episode 8, which was 2 weeks ago now. We were talking about a little bit about how, like, what music are you subjecting yourself to? What art are you subjecting yourself to in terms of, like, experiencing different people's perspectives? And, like, do we throw out people's expressions of themselves because they don't align with us? Or are we able to, like, have space where people are able to be themselves, and we don't have to, like, love it, agree with it, make it our anthem for life, but to just be, like, aware? Like, what's your situation like? Am I aware of what it's like to not be me? That's like a great thing that you point out, Charis, that I think a lot of Christians, particularly generational Christians, meaning like your daddy's daddy was a Christian, so was his mom and his mom, you know what I mean? Or her mom. Like, we can find ourselves kind of in these echo chambers, right?
Yeah.
And if we want to influence people, like, we need to be aware of what's around us so that we can actually interact and engage with it. So that's a great point, Charis.
Thank you.
You could preach a whole sermon on that. That's good stuff. So that was kind of the general idea of what was going on in the neighborhood this past week. If you've got any thoughts about that, watchers, listeners, we would love to hear it. But I think that now it's time for How About You?
How about you?
How About You is our segment to hear from you. And last week we were asking you about what sort of art you liked. I think that was the general feedback that we were looking for. We had different topics that we're talking about in episode 8. But we got one comment back that I want to read to you, and I want to hear your input, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. All right. The comment is, my favorite art is sports. And that is from Louis, our lead pastor at the Neighbourhood Church.
Wow.
So favorite art is sports. What do you think about that?
Pastor Louis, I think we should have a conversation. As the worship and tech ministries intern, I think we can expand your horizons when it comes to heart a little bit.
Yeah, I think knowing him, I think it kind of makes sense where he's actually, it kind of fits in because we were talking about how sports are imaginary last week.
Okay.
So we were talking about how, sports are basically just everybody's agreed that this should mean something, and so let's compete on it. So, in a sense, maybe sports is art. It's something we make up. It's something that we've all decided to appreciate together and to make into a bigger deal than it would be. Like if you ran across, just think about this.
Okay, I'm ready.
You ran across just some kids chilling in a field.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not going to be able to describe any sport in a broken down way without you immediately knowing what sport I'm talking about, but I'm going to try it anyways.
Okay.
Chilling in a field, and they're just kicking a ball between each other. They're using their feet, not throwing it. They're not whatever. They're just kicking it back and forth. And then you start to realize that there's kind of like a method to it, and like a ball goes too far one way, and some of them cheer and some of them frown, You'd be like, oh, what an interesting little creation. What a game they've made, you know what I mean? But that's just like every sport. I just described soccer, by the way.
Thank you.
Hey, I don't know if
That was a
everybody
little
caught
unclear.
on. It was kind of tough. But
The kicking the ball with the feet was really...
that was what gave it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, maybe that is expression. Maybe that is art, right?
I think it's definitely expression. I think it depends on what how you're defining art.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there is a creative element to sports, and I will give Louis that.
Okay.
There is a creativity to it. There
Yeah.
can be a beauty to it.
Yeah.
It is not my favorite art, and it's not the art I'm best at. I can tell you that much. But that's
fair.
okay.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm not very good at that form of art either. But, Oh, Ashley says that's proper football. So, football. Do you call it soccer? Hey, you don't call it football?
I do call it soccer.
We're Canadians. We call it soccer.
I actually was watching a video on the etymology of the word soccer and how it came to be. And it actually started in England, and it was slang, and then they brought it to America, and then they dropped it, and now they make fun of us
Oh, really?
for calling it soccer, even though they started it.
So what is the etymology? How did that happen?
I think it was something to do with, they made like an acronym for some kind of association,
Okay.
and then they had this thing where they started adding like to the ends of things, and then they
Okay.
shortened it. So instead of like starting with an A, it was just soccer, and then it was anyway.
Interesting.
This is from Instagram. This is not,
okay. So
legitimate.
properly vetted,
I did
verified
not
source.
vet it,
Yeah.
but
It's just some angry American making up lies, I bet.
Yeah.
Just trying to
That
get back
checks out.
at the UK. Okay.
anyway, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but
I'm going to take it and run with it.
I
I'm going to
like it.
believe that the rest of my life. We'll see what happens.
that's what I thought when I saw the video too.
Yeah. So that's interesting feedback. Thank you, Louis, for your feedback on last week. We appreciate you, our lead pastor. But this week, we want to ask you specifically about how have you been influenced, or how have you influenced people, or how are you influencing people? So based off of our In the Neighborhood, How about you? What was your story about somebody who just really left a significant mark in your life? Is there somebody who stood out? Like, you don't need to leave a whole life story in the comment or anything.
Yeah.
You can just say like, my Aunt Julie
Yeah.
really was always there for me, or whatever, or taught me how to wipe my butt. I don't know, whatever you need to say. Or how are you influencing people? Like, what opportunities has God given you where you are able to actually leave an impact on people, leave them better than you found them? Because we all have something.
And we're all ministers.
That's right.
So we would love to hear it.
Absolutely. So that's it for Unedited this week. We would love to hear back from you, and we'll catch you next week for episode 10.
Unedited is a ministry expression of the Neighbourhood Church. Hosted by Ethan Andrews and Jordan McClellan. Produced by Ashley Drayton. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.